Ladies and gentlemen, you are now tuned in to 2 AM Radio.
Welcome everybody to 2 AM Radio Show. Today we got a real special guest. Hold on, let me. Your name is pretty particular, man. Hold on, it's Firskyfoxtrot. That's a cool ass name.
Thank you. Yeah.
How did you get it, man?
It was an old gamer tag that I just came up with, Frisky Fox. I thought it sounded kind of goofy, like something like a furry would call themselves, and I just liked the alliteration, so I stuck with it. But then when I got into Web3, it was already taken. So naturally, I think it was actually a auto correction. I was sitting there trying to brainstorm, and the autofill suggested Foxtrot, and I was like, bet that sounds like more solid than just Frisky Fox, and still kind of keeps the alliteration. So that's what I went with.
That's a badass name, man. It's really original. Can't say I've heard it before.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of UK people will always be like, "Oh, fuck, mate, I love that name." They're like, I get the most compliments from people from the UK, and I don't know if they use the word frisky more or people are familiar with the foxtrot music genre, which is not what it is. But anyway, it's just a weird pattern I've noticed.
That's interesting. Maybe it's like some kind of UK slingo or something like that.
Maybe.
So, how did you develop your colorful signature style, man? How did you come up with all this?
Well, I guess my visual arts stuff started just as a kid, but when I got into my teenage years, I was really drawn toward street art and graffiti. The city that I grew up in, Tacoma, Washington, is really art friendly, so there's a lot of sanctioned places where you can see some really high level stuff, and I was always drawn to that hyper neon type of craziness. So I started doing little graffiti characters like on stickers, just with like highlighters, because that was all I had, and whatever high color stuff that I could get. And I don't know what it is about the hyper colorful kind of chaotic thing, but it tickles my brain in a way that I really like. So it's one of my inspirations as an artist was Alex Pardee. If you're familiar with him, he's got a really distinct style with a lot of colors and crazy character stuff. But really, it was the street art and the graffiti that kind of put me on to that hyper colorful palette.
Wow, that's super fucking cool. I love that color, man. Kind of reminds me of like Japan and nightlife and neon and graffiti as well, just like you said. And have you ever tagged walls and done stuff like that?
I used spray paint like twice when I was 14, just with a little stencil. But no, that was too high stress for me because it was hard to get spray paint anyway. And mostly I did little marker tags, and the stickers are the thing that I found to be the most fun, because you could really spend your time and put some detail and color into it. So I did throw up a lot of stickers around the neighborhood and throughout high school, at least freshman year of high school. Funny story how I got out of graffiti. I was doing these stickers as a freshman, and there's this fucking graffiti crew at the local high school that they finally saw me putting the sticker up, and they're like, "Hey, you're gonna start writing FBK on all your stuff, because we're the Freebach crew. What's up?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Yes, you are. Otherwise, my brother's gonna come here, and he has a gun." And I was like, well, are you threatening to shoot me? What are you talking about, dude? This is some high school drama bullshit. Like, fuck all the way off. But eventually, they did coerce me into doing it. So, and then they all got caught, but nobody ratted me out because I had just started and was reluctantly putting Free Block crew. Isn't that ironic, though? I got bullied into being a part of the Free Block crew. I don't know.
don't sound too free to me.
Right?
They give you much of a choice right there.
This is so dumb.
Oh man, high school was crazy back then, huh? Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah.
Oh
That was
man.
just freshman
Yeah.
year though, because I ended up going to a art school, so that would have really fucked me up if I had gotten caught doing graffiti. I don't think I would have gotten in.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know why graffiti is seen as such a bad thing, you know. As long as you're not, like really tearing up the neighborhood. I kind of I really love personally graffiti.
Right.
Because yeah, it's like an expression, right? It's like an artistic expression, and you're doing what you got to do, man. You don't have
Yeah.
canvases everywhere.
And it can take a really dull industrial area and make it look a little more unique, you know? It can,
Right.
like a flower in the middle of a desert or something.
Exactly.
But I find it interesting it's kind of a parallel to the Web3 space, and a little bit at least. You know, a lot of people will look at graffiti and just see, oh, gross. Why would they fucking paint that? And like, oh, gross. You paid how much for a pixelated ape? Or what are you
Mm.
doing? But those that love it absolutely fuck with it hard. So I appreciate that about the Web3 culture.
Yeah. Do you feel more accepted in the Web3 culture?
Yeah, 100%. It's amazing. I love the worldwide view and scope of seeing people from all over the world and express themselves in different mediums and stuff. It's beautiful. I feel like I fold right in. I haven't encountered too much negativity in the space, but it's been a wonderful experience.
No, definitely. And in some of your pieces, I heard some music. Were you the one to create the music?
Yeah, me and AI, maybe, depending on which you heard. But yeah, I did start as a musician. That's what I got into the Tacoma School of the Arts for. It's non-traditional music. So I started playing guitar and fucking with synthesizers and stuff back in ooh, ninth grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, something like that. But so these days, I mix in some of my older recordings that have survived. A lot of it didn't on an old hard drive that got lost to time. Um, but lately, like in the past couple of weeks, I've been messing with some AI mixed music, and that's been fun too because now it's to the point where I can take a guitar or just a recording of a riff and drop it into AI and prompt it in a direction and take it back out and edit it up. Um, so yeah, I love music. I'm not gonna sit in here and say like I'm a great musician and everyone should listen to my music because a lot of it is just not for everybody, and I get that. But I do some weird stuff, some experimental like on cassettes and like actual 4-track cassettes. So some of it's a little harsh, but lately I've been trying to do a little more drum and bass type deal.
Mm. Yeah, because from what I heard, it kind of reminds me of some. It reminds me of hip hop a bit. A bit of experimental hip hop, right? Would you say that's right?
Yes, yes, that's another direction I'm trying to go toward. Yeah.
I really love it, man. And do you ever, are you ever afraid of being judged when you're putting out your music, being an experimental and all that stuff?
Only if I eat too many edibles. Not gonna lie, that's when I get real self conscious. But no, not really. I've like I said, I've found that this culture is really accepting, and it's not going to be for everybody. One problem I find is that when I post a video or music, it doesn't get nearly as many impressions, which at first felt like, oh shit, why do I even put it out if nobody's going to see it?
Mm,
But then it's like, well, whatever. That's the way art goes. I'm lucky to have anybody seeing it. It's a true blessing to be able to share something, and if somebody fucks with it, then it makes it all worthwhile.
definitely. So what keeps you going, man? What keeps you creating in this Web3 world? It's not easy out here.
Yeah, no, there's been some ups and downs. I think just the community of friends that I've found along the way that, I've never spoken to half of them. I rarely get up and talk in spaces, something I'm trying to do more of this year. But just seeing the dope stuff that people create every goddamn day, that and just the never-ending capabilities of these AI tools and the ADD part of my brain that just has so many ideas. I want to create it all. Just there's no way I
Yeah.
could stop. I don't think.
Do you feel like you constantly get ideas that you have to put down? Is it something that you go through?
Yeah, yeah. To a fault, it's kind of. I definitely have some form of ADD, and it's. I'm not medicated for it, so it can be a distraction while I'm at work, but it helps me get through the day. That's
Yeah,
for
I don't
sure.
know. I don't know. Sometimes I don't think ADD is that bad, man. Honestly, I mean, sure, you can't focus on something, but it might be that art part of your brain that's like super artistic. You know what I'm saying? That's constantly keeping you searching, right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It's nice to be able to view myself as a creative finally, because after I had kids, I didn't really touch a guitar. I didn't think about stuff. I never really did that much drawing, but now that I'm doing AI art, it's gotten me to get out of my comfort zone a little more. But yeah, it does something for my brain just viewing myself in that manner, and maybe it accentuates the amount of frantic, crazy thoughts that I have. But I don't know. It also helps wrangle them to be able to sit down and flesh those ideas out.
Right. You said you have kids, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh man, that's awesome. But it
Yep.
can be so challenging being a parent and an artist at the same time, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, yeah. I got 5 kids.
Like,
Two of mine and three are my girlfriend's, so they keep us busy as shit between sports and everything. It's it's a full schedule, my guy. But it also kind of helps keep me motivated in the fact that I'm actually doing a thing that I love, and they can see me even through these minor successes. It's really fucking cool.
yeah, so where are you going with all this? Like, what's your end goal?
End goal, um, just make as much cool stuff as possible. This year, my goal is to collaborate with some musicians, making some headway in that department, which is cool. Kid Kenobi is a DJ from Australia. I just met up with him through some mutual friends, and it's pretty wild. I think everybody in Web3 here is just one or two clicks away from meeting some really amazing artists and stuff. So trying to branch out in that direction. As far as end goal, I think just leave something that I'm proud of. I can look back a body of work. It'd be cool to set up a proper Etsy shop or something with print on demand for physical stuff. That's another kind of end goal that I've been kind of slacking on. But yeah,
Yeah.
big picture, just keep grinding, I guess.
Yeah, listen, I gotta take my hat off to you, man, because you got 5 kids at home. I got two, and I feel like every day is a battle to get
Ah,
up and yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? And create, because man, it must be so tough to continue, focusing on your goals and going to work and still showing up to create, even if it's AI and people think it's easy, it's not. Um, yeah,
yeah, it can be, but depending on how much work you put in post and stuff. But yeah, the parenting thing does take up a big chunk of time, so it can be hard to maintain a level of relevancy here.
yeah, that's the madness of it. It's the idea that you have to show up every single day is so it's crazy, man. I don't know how we do it, but yeah, hats off to you, bro.
Thank you, thank you.
So, when I look at your work, man, I see a certain pattern of colors. Sometimes it's like I can't really put them into words because they're very original. Like it's like a blue purple tint. Like, do you usually create when and you look for that certain color? You know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about like the GM post that I did this morning?
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
could link
yeah.
it to like your other work as well. Like, excuse me. There's a certain There's a certain line between all your works, a certain color, which I couldn't possibly describe.
Yeah, there's a color combination that I just put in, in the color palette of blah blah blah, and it tends to give me some pretty great results. Or a lot of the times I'll just throw in CMYK color palette. Um, but yeah, the magenta and mixed with the orange and purple and pinks, I really love that. It's like the umami of color palettes between that and cotton candy. I haven't really put much out in the cotton candy color palette lately, but that's another color palette I really like to utilize. So I usually just inject that in the prompt. It's not necessarily just re-rolling a bunch of times to find that. Although if I leave that descriptor out, I guess I am kind of more drawn toward those similar through lines in my work.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? Kind of like it reminds me as it reminds me of like '90s retro cartoons as well. Kind of those colors. Like, does that
Hell yeah.
influence your work?
Yes, yes. Invader Zim, that's another, the
Oh yeah,
creator
that's a
of
good
that,
one.
Jonan Vasquez. He made some crazy comic books too, and I've been fucking with him for a long time. I got to meet him at a Comic Con. Only
Whoa,
time I've ever been to a Comic Con just to meet that fucker. It was tight. I got some signed Squee books.
yeah, that show was wild, man. Invader Zim. I remember that fucking show.
Yeah, they tried to reboot and maybe just too late. I don't know. It didn't seem to hit the same way.
Yeah, I don't know if the new generation. Yeah, it's man. We really we grew up in the golden times of cartoons, right?
Yes,
Back
sir.
everything was so colorful and 2D, and I mean I sound like a boomer right now, but it really was like
The
you.
golden era.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do you feel like your work you're trying to get that memory of back then, like cartoons and cereal?
Yeah, 100%.
Mm.
That's a big part of it. I think a lot of my work kind of borders on what I aim for is creepy and cute. So the cuteness is sort of a nostalgia to that kind of cartoon era, and then the creepiness is more so the Alex Pardee, Jonan Vasquez type of influence of that teetering on the cusp of is it cute, is it creepy, or um, there's other through lines that I try to discover as an artist, but that's part of the process. Is like I part of the reason I've avoided some of these interviews is that I'm still kind of finding my voice. Like I never saw myself as a visual artist, and now that I have these tools over the past 2 years, or I guess coming up on 3 in July, so yeah, 2.5 whatever years, is just finding that voice. And in preparation for this, I'm glad I did it because it forced me to sit down and really type out what it is I'm trying to convey and that kind of thing. Did that answer the question?
Oh yeah, definitely. This is fascinating. Do you feel like every time you create a piece, you have to have a certain message behind it, or do you just let it live by itself?
In minting or posting, those are two different.
That's true.
Because
Yeah, because
yeah,
minting and posting is really different when you're putting it up for sale. Let's say when you're creating in general. Like, do you think
okay.
about that?
Um, Sometimes yeah. Like um, I'd probably say half of my creations when I'm prompting or creating it is it's coming from a certain emotional place or a certain vibe and trying to encapsulate that either in the words or in the messaging of what's actually being seen. Yes. Although half the time is just these random thoughts like what if this, and then that ends up being a GM post or whatever it is. But it's something that is in the back of my mind most of the time, anyway.
So what makes an art? How do you decide what becomes a gem post and what becomes worthy of minting?
Sometimes they intertwine. whatever I do mint will probably have some kind of a storyline behind, or at least a an emotional aspect of it. And so, kind of finding that through line between the chaos and the beauty in the chaos is what I aim for, and often depictions of mortality and embracing mortality, because I've had 3 heart surgeries since the age of 18 and a
Whoa.
couple of near death experiences. And that's what I was in the Web3 space, but not really minting or trying that hard until I had my 3rd surgery. And I came out of that like, what the fuck am I even doing? Like, this is what I want to do. Why don't I just get to minting? Get yourself a Tezos
Right.
wallet and get out there on the blockchain. So there's some of that that's hidden. I don't talk about that very often, but the acceptance of death, and it's way better to just embrace its inevitability than fear it.
Mm. Hmm. That's deep, man. I'm really fascinated by near-death experiences. Do you have would you be comfortable telling us a story about one of yours?
Yeah, the main one was so this the heart condition I have is called LGL syndrome, but basically there's an extra muscle fiber on the exterior of my heart that conducts electricity. So randomly, completely randomly, sometimes agitated, sometimes randomly, it'll just kick on, and all of a sudden my heart's going at 200 beats per minute. Um, and so I've had struggled with those episodes like every, I don't know, 3 months or however long it'll happen, and hence the surgeries. But one time, uh, I had one that lasted. Usually they last like a few minutes, but this one was going on for like an hour. So I yeah, fuck it. I was in a really, really bad place mentally and emotionally, just feeling alone, and really did not give a fuck if I lived. But I knew I didn't want to just die in my apartment, so I drove myself to the ER and reluctantly checked in. And I was they rushed me into the table, and my heart stopped, and I had a little out of body experience where I was stuck on the ceiling, but looking at my body like I don't want to go back in there. But there was a voice or something that said, "No, you got more to do," and just gently pushed me back in. And I was out of body 3rd person view of them using the defibrillators on my body, and that's what zapped me back in. And then kind of found a new purpose in life. That was quite a while ago.
Wow, that's pretty. That's insane, man. Because I excuse me, I study a lot of the near-death experiences, and
Oh,
yeah. I'm really, really passionate about that. I spent hours and hours studying this stuff. So you're the first person that I met that actually, you know, uh, tells me about their out-of-body experiences, which is absolutely insane, man.
it's
Wow.
crazy. A lot of people say the same thing, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. The out-of-body experiences. Yeah, it's pretty common. It's yeah. There's thousands and thousands of people that'll say exactly what you just said. So this is for me personally. This is truly a proof that we don't die. We continue, and
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just listening to a podcast about it too. Somebody on Theo Vaughn's podcast who studied Dr. whatever the hell his name is. He studied like 4,000 cases of it, and I find it fascinating as well because I'm not a religious person, but in that moment there was some other thing that was telling me, no, it's okay. You got more to do on this earth, so
Wow.
go back in your body and do what you need to do, Poppy.
So the day you return, is that the day you created the Tezos wallet, or?
No, that was that'd be tight. Yeah, get you some freaking Tezos, dude. Object.
The last thing
That's
you
where all the
said.
money is. No,
Yeah.
that was like 2000. 14 or something. That was a long time ago.
Wow. Do you still think about it when you're creating your art?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think about mortality in the big picture sense, but I find it really hard to voice it in a piece of art or actually encapsulate that feeling or sensation. And also, I don't want to come off as corny. I don't mind talking about it, but to put it in a piece of art, it just hasn't felt right. I'm sure the time and place will come when that does happen, but it is definitely something in the back of my mind that I don't take life for granted. I live in the moment almost to a fault where I'm forgetting other obligations and shit. But it it's a constant thing that today's the only moment you have. So fucking live it up and don't do anything stupid. Don't try not to regret anything, but um, it's a real undercurrent to the force that drives me in life. So in art as well, yeah.
Wow, man. Amazing. And would you say your near-death experience was, would you consider chaos or calming?
The calming,
Calming.
oddly, um, yeah, it's a weird sensation of like that deep depression that my conscious brain was in going into there. I did not fucking want to live, but whatever that voice was, that sensation of no, you got more to do, gave me a sense of melancholy type of calm to it and kind of acceptance.
Wow. And when it told you you had more to do, in your opinion, what do you think that means? What do you think you still have to do?
Fuck. I wish I knew. That'd be tight if they just gave me an actual roadmap, right? I don't know. I mean, part of me thinks maybe it is talking more about that living in the moment. Don't take life for granted because it can get ripped away so easily. But I don't know. It's.
Mm,
I suppose that's probably it. I mean, definitely raising these kids. That's for shit, sure. Um,
that's beautiful,
yeah.
man. Yeah, this entire conversation, man, it kind of reminds me of my favorite piece by you, um, amalgamation of order and chaos.
Fuck
Um,
yeah.
oh man, that piece is badass, man. It is
Thank
absolutely
you.
badass. Please, man, tell me more about this piece. Yeah, what was your inspiration behind it?
Oh, that's a good one. That's one I can actually talk about. It was an open call. Well, I'd already been working on that, and then I saw an open call by Black AI.
Oh, shout out to
And
Black.
shout out to Black. Absolutely. Um, and so I'd already been working on that piece, but I didn't really like have a title for it. And I knew I was wanting to do something different. Um, I just found PhotoLeap, which is a app that's just made for editing photos, and but they have this one tool where it's like a endless zoom or it morphs the thing. So I took 52 frames and sequenced them up to get that liquid flowing, repeating without jumping, that smooth animation. Um, but I had posted that still image and Rebel Without Applause. I don't know if you know him. Shout out to Timothy Longaria, however you say
Talk
his last name. He'd be a cool one to interview. I love that guy so much.
Hit me up, man.
He is really gifted with naming things. Like if the name jumps out at him, and he's done it for me and other people a lot of the times. And he just mentioned that the amalgamation of order and chaos, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm trying to do here. And then that ended up informing the story of what that creature is, and then kind of sat there and meditated with the idea of that, the amalgamation of order and chaos, and the birth between a cosmic event, some kind of epic thing. That was basically the process, and yeah, and now it's for view on a freaking yacht in the metaverse, which is
Oh,
crazy. There's a lot of good other art in that show. It was a wild drop.
what does that title mean to you, man? I read the description and I don't know. I felt like I needed a bit more like an explanation from the artist himself because I don't fully understand it. But what do you think it means?
To me, it's the culmination of those two opposing forces.
Mm,
The the creature itself is the amalgamation. Uh, it's born of the chaos of the universe fighting with the order of the universe. Um, hence, that's where it came from. So
okay, that's really interesting, man. Because see, when I was looking at it, it felt it kind of reminded me of anxiety or something. It's it seems like I'm saying like it's kind of it has a negative connotation, but it doesn't at the same time. It's a really challenging piece to understand, which makes it that
yes,
much greater. Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what I mean. If you look at it, I would say it probably borders way more on the order or the chaos side rather than the order.
Mm.
But maybe that's just what I'm more drawn to, the more of the chaotic side, and hence that's what kind of came through. But it is kind of a distressing, maybe isn't the word, but yeah, I think you're right. Anxiety is an apt description.
Do you suffer from anxiety? Does that happen to you?
Only when I eat too many edibles. No, sometimes, yeah, I have in the past hardcore for sure. When it was in a way different mental state, and actually, yeah, right before I met my girlfriend, who helps keep me grounded in amazing ways.
Mm.
But I haven't had major struggles with it in several years, fortunately.
Oh, that's good. And do you how do I say this? You speak a lot about edibles. Do you use a lot of hallucinogens, mushrooms, and all that kind of stuff to make some art?
I wouldn't say a lot. uh, no, I've eaten mushrooms a fair amount of times, but it's not something I regularly do. Um, I've never done any other hallucinogens actually, so I do fucks with edibles. It's legal here in our state, fortunately. Um, but no, I've been wanting to start microdosing, so I haven't done that in a minute. That was one of the things that helped with the anxiety too, outside of uh, pharmacological solutions that the doctors wanted to prescribe. Um, but I'm not averse to the hallucinogens. I'm certainly fascinated by them. That's another
Mm.
thing that kind of you can see in my work. Do a lot of mushroom or trippy stuff.
And have you ever had a bad trip with them, like, or is it always pleasant?
I've had some challenging moments, but not a bad trip. I've seen and helped a lot of people. Well, not a lot. I don't think I've only done mushrooms fucking like maybe 12 times, but I have. That's not a lot, right?
No, that's all right. I know, yeah, people done more.
For people, whatever. So I've seen people have some bad reactions and
Mm.
helped ground them through it. I feel really bad for people that have only had negative experiences because it part of the challenge is not fighting the challenge, accepting what is in front of you, regardless of how fucking terrifying it is. But no, I've never really had a bad trip. But I always feel bad when people are having a bad trip.
Mm. Yeah, I never had the courage to do them, man, personally, because I feel like my anxiety would probably take the controls and just take me on this wild trip I didn't ask for.
Yeah. That's fair. You want to make sure you're in a good mental place. Don't
Yeah.
just do them on a whim. And they're not for everybody. That's a huge thing people leave out in these conversations. Like, everybody should be microdosing. The world would be better if everyone just did a fucking mushroom trip. No. Definitely not. Shut up about that, Joe Rogan. There's not everybody needs this or would do, good with it. Check what medicines you're on, what kind of mental state you're in going into those things. Yeah.
Wow. And have you ever been on a trip that reminded you of your near-death experience that brought you back to it?
No, I haven't. Well, no, not really. I mean, the I've thought a lot about death, what happens to us after we die, ever since I was a child.
Mm,
So that kind of mortality question and what else is out there is kind of always clunking around in the back of my head. Not that I really have an answer or have fully studied philosophy, although I do fuck with the Tao Te Ching. I like that a lot, and I've read some books and whatnot on it. So, but it is kind of a never-ending question of mine that floats in the back of my head, but have never. No, I've been tripping with people that thought they died, and I had to tell them like, no, no, you're still alive.
oh my God. Oh, yeah, that sounds pretty terrifying, man. To think you actually,
hmm
wow. And oh man, I just forgot my question. Shit. And do you still fear death after what happened to you?
No, I
Mm,
mean, yes, in the sense that I don't want to die.
right.
There's, especially I got these fucking kids to take care of,
Of
man.
course, of course.
So that aspect of it I fear, but the actual act or the unknowing of what happens afterward, that no longer terrifies me. Um, I'm not certain that it terrified me necessarily, it scared me to think about what is possible, but after that experience, I feel there's, and after hearing about so many other people's experiences that went way further out of their body than me, uh, gives me some hope that there's actual good source energy that we return to, type of
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah.
Um, so not like a fear of the death itself, but rather the repercussions of not being here.
Interesting. So, yeah, that's a great answer, man. Like you fear more what the people that rely on you, what they would go through rather than yourself.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh wow. Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing this story, man, because it brings out another dimension to your art because you definitely feel that it's there. There's something what you said it's not clear in the art, but it's there. It's I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's part of me finding the voice. You're right. Yeah, and I don't know exactly how to articulate it, and maybe some of the stuff I didn't realize that until recently that is kind of what I'm getting at.
Mm,
It's there, but it's not clear.
that's beautiful, man. I think it makes it even better, you know.
Thank you.
It's yeah. Yeah, art great art, man. I really feel like it has to make you feel like the artist is talking from their subconscious. Sometimes it doesn't have to, but it when it's well done, it's really powerful. Um,
Yes,
yeah.
and that's something that Black definitely helped pull out of me, and especially with that open call for the amalgamation of order and chaos is one of the stipulations of what he was looking for was pushing the boundaries of the tools and narrative, and that was the first piece that I kind of got out of this is just a pretty image, here's a backstory or something like that, where there was something deeper, even if it's not immediately apparent. That after that third surgery, I was because he was still doing a lot of spaces, and I would talk once in a while, or he's a good guiding light for a lot of artists. I'll just leave
Yes.
it at that.
Yes. Yes. 100%. How difficult is it for you to get up on spaces?
Um, it depends. Like the FCW space, a small collective of freaks, creeps, and weirdos. I get up and talk there all the time because I feel like that's the crew. Those are the homies, and then I don't really care too much about who's in the audience. But like, if it's a big stage, then I get some anxiety, uh, and it's more so just the hesitation. Like once I'm up there in the moment, it's no big deal. But just that first act of getting up to talk is often, especially if I don't know that many people in the room, depending on the vibe of the host, it can be more or less challenging. Um, but usually small rooms, I'm more than happy to get up and chat.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Me too, man. And it's sometimes it's even challenging to get up there and be accepted. It's cool when they let you up, and yeah, and us artists were usually very introverts, so yeah, it can be. Sometimes it's a real challenge. I totally understand what you're saying. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing that well, you kind of have to sometimes, right? If you want to get your art out there. So
100%. Yeah, and that's that's the thing. I've been toying with the idea of hosting my own spaces, just open mic format or whatever. Come get to know me type of deal.
oh,
Because I
that's
feel like
cool.
then I'm more in control and probably not that many people are going to show up, that type of thing. But to actually carve out the time has been difficult between sports seasons and whatnot. I think I can do it in the spring and summer. Maybe it's not as consistent, but at least provide a platform to get up and talk more about these kind of things. You know.
Yeah, I really hope we break this love affair that we have with consistency, man. Shit,
Mm.
man, it fucks with your mental health, man. At one point,
Mm-hmm.
showing up
Mm-hmm.
every day, right? And just it's not realistic, man. Especially when you're excuse me, when you're a parent of 5 kids, man.
Yeah.
Damn, man. Oof. You
I'm
know, I,
fortunate though. At my job, I can listen to Spaces. Mostly, I listen to podcasts and Spaces at work. Um, so that helps keep me active, and then post and do my reply guy shit on my 10-minute breaks and lunch breaks.
yeah, yeah. Staying active in the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what are your thoughts on the NFT world, the way it is right now?
Well, I I'm just fucking grateful to be able to share what I make with anybody, honestly. And I don't know if it's being raised in a really ethnically diverse public school system and whatnot, but I really fucking like seeing art from all over the world, hearing
Yeah,
all these beautiful accents and fucking dope people from all over the world. That excites me. As far as like the market and state of all that, I I don't I got in right at the end of the bull run, so I don't know any better. I'm just
okay. Yeah,
I'm happy to, like, I'll put some stuff on Tezos. It'll sell or not sell. It's fine. It's it would be great if everybody could just make art full time that wants to do that. But in the meantime, just keep grinding, and uh, I'm happy for any amount of success or any post that gets seen by people. I'm like truly just grateful to be here and have that outlet. It's kind of like I didn't talk much about arts high school, but when I was there, it, you have to apply as a freshman and then get accepted. You have to have never been suspended, no fights, all that kind of stuff. So what ended up happening was it seemed like just the outcasts. It wasn't necessarily people that really loved art, like I really loved art. And these people were just kind of there because they would have flunked out. Um, but there, and then that kind of led me into a punk rock, fuck everything type of mentality in that space. But here, it's like these are, especially during the bear market, these are people that fuck with the art hard. So that's another thing that keeps me motivated, that people are still here doing the thing with or without sales. Does that answer the question?
oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I think you summed it up beautifully, man. And my last question before we wrap this up, man.
Hmm.
What are you seeking with your art?
What am I seeking?
Yeah,
What am I seeking?
if anything.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm, I'm really drawn toward like dualities and dichotomies and that juxtaposition, like I said. But
Mm,
um, I think if I had to sum it up, it would be embrace the chaos and find the beauty therein. You know.
mm. Well said, man. Well said.
Thank you.
Well, Firskyfoxtrot, man, thank you so much for coming up here and sharing your story, man. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, man. This was great.
Yeah, I hope you had a good time.
Sure did. I'm glad you were into the near death stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, let's keep in touch, man. I love talking about that kind of stuff. And let's do this again. I'd love to have you back.
Absolutely. Much appreciated, man.
All right, man. Have a good morning. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Take care, man.
You too, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for taking a moment of your time and listening to our show. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for tuning in to 2 a.m. Radio. Until